Hey, what's up, everybody? Chicago Gooner here, bringing you another Arsenal talk. Well, 2-0 to Chelsea. There's not really much to even say about this game. There's not much to get pissed off about after a game like this. If you were looking at Chelsea's other fixtures and their results, especially in the Premier League, you kind of, I was thinking, we're going to get run over just like last year. It might even be worse than last year, especially by the way we've been playing this year. Even in that, the 4-1-4-1 or 4-3-3, whatever you want to call it, still not, great defensively. We didn't really, we weren't, in that formation, we're not really able to create many chances for ourselves. But in this game, it was just, there's nothing to really get pissed off about. There's nothing to really be worried about. I guess there's some positives coming out of this game, in my opinion. Like I said, leading up to this game, Chelsea was just far and away better than us. But coming out of this game, you can't really say that. You can't really say that they're far and away better than us. They are a better side, obviously, and to some degree, but not to the point to where we got beat down last year like 6-0. We really didn't get beat down this year at all. We stayed well organized. Of course, we played in that 4-1-4-1 or the 4-3-3, whatever you want to classify that formation that we were playing in. Of course, Ozil playing on the wing, which of course it does piss me off. You can be well organized and play defensive in a 4-2-3-1. Chelsea was basically playing in a 4-3-3, 4-2-3-1 type of a formation. It was more like a 4-3-3, but you could still play defensive and be well organized in a 4-2-3-1 and still not run away from your strengths. Of course, playing Ozil on the wings is a waste. But today, it just there wasn't much to like complain about him as much as far as like him tracking back or him playing defensively. He stayed in his. I guess you can say he stayed in his area. There was a few times he did track back. There was one time where even Cesc Fabregas, dispossessed him, and he ran all the way back and pretty much nicked the ball back. And of course, we didn't clear it out like we should have, but he did track back a couple times, and he did help out defensively. But all in all, it was a nasty game. If it wasn't a London derby, Chambers probably would have been sent off. Cahill would have definitely been sent off. That challenge was late. It was unnecessary. Of course, it sparked a fire under Arsene Wenger to him walking out of his box and confronting Jose Mourinho. I think a lot of that was due to the earlier game in the week, Champions League game versus Galatasaray, where Felipe Melo basically left his feet and made a challenge against Alexis Sanchez. It seemed like maybe Arsene thought that Alexis Sanchez was being targeted like he was in the Galatasaray game. And Arsene should, I have no bones about that. People might say, "Oh, I'm being biased about it," but any manager would do the same exact thing if they feel that one of their star players is being targeted. You see managers not only in the Premier League but in La Liga and Bundesliga, any league in the world, when one of their better players is being targeted and they have a challenge like that against them, that gets the manager up, that gets the manager fired up and starts to point fingers. And it was kind of funny seeing Arsene coming over to Jose and pushing him and stuff, and it was kind of funny to see that kind of that type of fire and that type of, I guess, passion or something from Arsene that we just haven't seen, especially over the last couple of years, I think, from Arsene Wenger. but all in all, it was just it was just like one sliding tackle after another. Yellow cards were flying all over the place. I can't even tell you offhand of who didn't get a yellow card in that game because it just seemed like yellow cards were just being passed out to everybody. But you can even say maybe even Danny Welbeck at the end of the game where he made that challenge against Cesc Fabregas, which it seemed like it made a lot of Arsenal fans happy to see that. To see some type of challenge against him. I know there's like a VIN going around about the play that says Fabregas dispossessed Ozil, but I want to see the VIN where Ozil pretty much left Cesc Fabregas's jock hanging on the floor during the game. There were a couple times where he made a couple moves against him, and Fabregas was just like standing there, not knowing what just happened to him. But all in all, it was just it was kind of like almost like a boring game to watch because Chelsea really didn't do much with the ball. We didn't do much with the ball. We had a couple chances. They had a couple chances. The one thing that I would actually like to point out that really pissed me off was the fact that Santi Cazorla let Eden Hazard just run right past him. The PK could have been prevented. All that Santi Cazorla had to do was either bump Hazard, or even just stick his leg out to trip him. At worst, he would have got a yellow card. That was at worst. It would have still been outside of the box. Could have prevented a PK. They would have just had a free kick right at the edge of the box. And you watch enough football, the hardest free kick to take is right on the edge of the box, and that's where it would have been. It wouldn't have been inside the box. It didn't seem like there was any communication going on. I thought at first, because I even reversed it a little bit to see if there was any type of communication between him and Koscielny, or even Szczesny yelling at Santi to let him go, which I can't believe that Koscielny or even or Szczesny would even tell Santi to ease up, because that's what he did. He just eased up and let him run right past him when all he had to do was stick his leg out. If we had Aaron Ramsey, or even if Jack was in that position, he would have just stuck his leg out and fouled him, because that's what should have happened. You don't let a player just run full sprint with the ball at his feet inside the box. You just don't do it, because it left Koscielny completely vulnerable. And of course, what ended up happening, he ended up getting a PK out of it. Because Santi just didn't want to stick his leg out. He just didn't want to be physical. If you can't be physical in a game like that, you shouldn't be playing in it. Period. And if that doesn't happen, it doesn't open us up for the second goal even, because in the second half we attacked more. We had a lot more possession. We had a couple chances, but nothing came of it. But it opened us up to the point that we only had BFG and Koscielny on the high line. And of course, the negative of BFG is his lack of pace, and that's what killed us at the end. To get that through ball, or not the through ball, the over top ball from Fabregas to Costa, that pretty much ended the game. The other gripe that I would have on that play was, what the fuck was Szczesny doing? I really don't know what he was doing on that. He should have stayed upright. He could have just made himself bigger, because the only option that Costa really had on that play was to chip him. He wasn't really in control of the ball. He took a touch which it looked a little heavy, and the ball was kind of bouncing a little bit. And the only other option that Costa really had was to chip the keeper. That was it. And I just don't know what was going through Szczesny's head to throw himself on the ground. Maybe he thought he was just going to dink it or something like that, and maybe could have stopped it. But I think if he would have stayed upright and made himself bigger that way, he could have at least got a hand out, or he could have prevented any type of a chip, or he could have allowed, if he would have just made himself bigger and got in his way, maybe that Koscielny could have recovered, or even Mertesacker could have got back into the play, possibly to prevent a goal. But all in all, there's not really much to say. I wish we would have played in the 4-2-3-1, obviously, for obvious reasons. Again, you could stay organized in a 4-2-3-1. You could be defensive in a 4-2-3-1, but we didn't go that route. I thought coming off the Galatasaray game, kind of proving this is the formation that we should be playing. Um, I just don't know. I just don't have any really words, any more words to really say about it. Um, it was a well organized game by both sides. Again, there's nothing really to be. I guess the positive to take out of this was maybe Chelsea isn't as. I mean, they're strong. They're a strong side, though. I mean, they're still my pick to win the league this season, but they're not as strong as I thought they were going into the game. Going into the game, I thought we were just going to run over, but it didn't happen because, for once, that Arsenal was pretty much well organized. The communication level between like Flamini and the back line, and even between Jack and Santi was pretty good throughout the entire game. There was nothing to really get pissed off about or to make any type of complaints. I wish we would have been a little bit more clinical in our final third. Uh, there just wasn't, again, in that formation, we just don't have enough players inside the box, inside that 18-yard box. It was basically Danny Welbeck, and that was it. I think not starting the Ox really hurt. I thought we should have just went with the same formation, same lineup as we did with Galatasaray. When you're on a high like that, when you score that many goals, when you're that dominant, you want to go into the next game, same damn thing, regardless of who you're playing. Regardless of, if we get fucking murdered, we get fucking murdered. I mean, that was kind of like the approach that I was basically taking going into this game. If we get fucking murdered, so be it. They're the better side, so be it. But at least try to make a game out. At least try to make it competitive. But it was competitive at the end. I'm not going to complain too much about that. Again, we're missing a guy like Aaron Ramsey who, in place of Santi Cazorla, he would have made that tackle. He would have just made a sliding tackle. He would have stuck his leg out. He would have bumped Hazard even before he got into the box to prevent the PK, to even prevent the a goal-scoring chance. Of course, the big name, the one that we've all been screaming about is, of course, Theo Walcott. Um, the one reason that we do miss him so much is not because of like his pace and his quality. He's a big game player. He lives for these games. He loves these games. He loves playing in these games. He always performs at his best in these type of games where it's against the top four, or if it's it's a derby game. He always seems to get up for the game. He always seems to get the rest of the guys up for the game. You saw in the last couple of years where he's starting to take that leadership role a little bit. Maybe not so much out in the public, but you could see it on the pitch. You can see it, in training sessions where, Arsenal.com does some, interviews where, Theo comes out and he says, I really love playing in these games, and we're ready, and we'll be ready to play in these games. So we're definitely missing him. If you kind of go back to even last year between the North London derbies, I mean, he was up for those games. He wanted to play in those games, and that's maybe one of the few games that you can actually see Theo Walcott play a little bit more defensively than he usually does in other games. Usually other games he's kind of lazy, but when it comes to these derbies, when it comes to playing against top four teams, he's always up for it. So we're definitely missing him right now. And of course, we're missing him on the fact that maybe we won't play in this 4-1-4-1, 4-3-3 formation when he comes back. So hopefully he does come back soon. Of course, seems like it's always kind of like a setback, but it almost seems like after this international break that he will be coming back. Hopefully, I know he's in training right now. Again, it's not such a terrible thing. That they're easing him back, and because an ACL injury is an ACL is an injury. You want to basically almost treat it like kid gloves, and you want to listen to the player and to see if he's comfortable with coming back, and see if he can he plant that foot, can he make cuts, can he run as fast as he normally can. Of course, we all want him back now. We wanted him back since the season began, but again, with an injury like this, you want to treat it with kid gloves. It's not like a hamstring or any of those kind of lighter injuries. But hopefully by the end of the international break, this one at least, he will be back into the fold, and he will be hopefully starting on the bench, because that's what he'll probably start at, is starting on the bench, and he'll probably get subbed in for the first couple games, kind of like what happened last year when he came back. He was getting subbed in for a couple games, and then he finally started. I believe against Man City, I think it was his first start when he came back from injury last year. But yeah, hopefully he'll be back because him and Aaron Ramsey obviously are the missing pieces right now that we need out there for our team to excel at the highest level. But yeah, going into this international break again, there's not much else to really say about the Chelsea game, other than what I really just said. Um, there's negatives and there's positives, but I think there's more positives than there is negatives. It wasn't a barnstorm. It wasn't, again, you know, you would have thought that Chelsea could have probably scored maybe four against us or something today, but they didn't. There's not much I'm actually worried about going into the rest of the season. Possibly, if Chelsea's the best side in the Premier League this year, then I'm not worried about top four now anymore, unless we get some terrible injuries. Obviously, that's going to prevent us, and then um, if Arsenal just keeps on continuously going with this 4-1-4-1, hopefully this is the end of it. Hopefully, the only time that we do see it ever again is basically against away games, against top four teams like Chelsea, a Man City, possibly even a Liverpool. I don't think we'll have to do it against Manchester United because even though they did win today against Everton, they still didn't look all that impressive to me at all. Their back line is a shit show. Even with Daily Blind, it's still a shit show in my opinion. They're not even that. Other than Di Maria, there's not much else really to say about them attacking wise. RVP, he looks, you can see his age. That's all I'm going to say about him. Falcao is still trying to get into the side. He's still trying to figure things out, especially in the Premier League, being this physical, obviously. But yeah. But coming out of this international break, I hope a lot of the Arsenal players get some breaks and they don't play as much. Of course, Corsione kind of probably needs some rest. It's good that BFG is retired, so he's going to have a rest throughout this international break. Ozil will probably play, but it depends on who they play. Obviously, maybe he'll play one game, maybe he won't play both games. That'll be good to see to get him an extra rest. I guess Chambers got called up to the England squad, so he'll be playing, I believe. Maybe he'll be on the bench. But hopefully, for the most part, I kind of hope that most of the Arsenal players get a break because some of them need them, especially that back line with Gibbs and Koscielny and BFG and even Chambers, because they're going to be playing the rest of the first half of the season. That's going to be the back line pretty much without any break, and it's a definite concern that if any one of those guys goes down, we're gonna be hurting. But coming out of the international break, I guess here's the positive thing after playing Chelsea. This was basically for our first half of the season. This was going to be our hardest week. Was basically the scum and Galatasaray and then Chelsea. That was basically going to be our more difficult week to have in our first half of the season. Coming out of the international break, it's very positive if you want to take it as that. Coming out of the international break, we have Hull City. After that, Hull City on the fuck. They're not even showing the fucking date here. What is this? The 18th? Oh, yeah, there we go. Saturday the 18th against Hull City. That's at home, which we desperately need. I think is another home game to get the boys back up and running. After that, we go away to Anderlecht in the Champions League. Sunderland away on the 25th. Then we got Burnley on November 1st, which will have a week off after Sunderland, which is a big plus as well. After that, we got Anderlecht at home, so it's basically back-to-back Champions League game with Anderlecht. at least like back-to-back weeks. After that, we have Swansea City on the 9th of November, and then there's another international break. And coming out of the international break, we have Manchester United, then Borussia Dortmund, and West Brom to finish out November. So it's very positive. There's a lot of points to be had. There's a lot of points. Hull City 3 points, Sunderland 3 points, Burnley 3 points, Swansea City possibly 3 points. That's 1, 2, 3, 9. Swansea City 12. Manchester United, the way they're fucking playing, we should be able to beat them, and that's at home at the Emirates. So that's possibly 15. There's going out of November, there's a possible 18 points to be had, and we can win every single one of those games. Especially if we play in the right formation. Obviously Theo will be back by then. I believe coming out of later half of November. Obviously Aaron Ramsey will probably be back by that time. Even going into December, we have Southampton and Stoke City, then Galatasaray, Newcastle United, Liverpool, and West Ham to finish out the year. So it's very positive going in after this tough week between the scum, Galatasaray, and Chelsea. That there's a lot of points to be had. There's a lot of points that we can start getting into back into that top four, because we're currently 8th. But this is the time of the year that we need to start separating ourselves from everybody else, and let some of those other teams get beat up by people, especially with Liverpool. They're not playing especially well. Manchester United, even though they're in top 4 right now, they're not playing well at all either. Man City kind of looked, they didn't look good at all for the first, about 65, 70 minutes of the game against Villa yesterday. So there's points to be had. There's opportunities right now to start distancing ourselves from everybody else, and really, cement ourselves into that top 4. So coming out of this international break, it needs to be all hands on deck. And we need to go back to that 4-2-3-1. If you want to, a lot of people are still criticizing Ozil, and the 2 games that he did play, the full games that he did play in a 4-2-3-1, 1 goal and 2 assists. Again, you don't want to take your best player, your best number 10 in the world, and play him out in the wings. Of course, they're probably going to do that if it's defensively, but all in all, there's positives to take about this. A lot of people were, I guess Cesc Fabregas came over to the away fans after the game and clapped them. Still don't know how I feel about that. I don't know how I feel about him. I thought maybe after that Costa goal, or if they were going to score a goal, that he would maybe not celebrate with his teammates. Maybe he would celebrate a little bit, where he would just pat someone on the back or something like that. But he kind of went full out there, and it was kind of sick to see, to be honest with you. I guess some fans booed him and whatever, but honestly, after seeing this game, after seeing him in Chelsea, it was, even though he was a non-factor pretty much except for that one pass, that dude's dead to me. I guess he said after the game that Arsenal fans still love me, and I don't know what fucking planet he lives on, or if he needs to check Twitter once in a while and see what we say about him, because I don't love him anymore. I mean, he's one of the main reasons why I became an Arsenal fan. He was my favorite player, not anymore. He's pretty much dead to me. So screw him. He can die over there at Chelsea for all I care. But just to finish out this Arsenal talk. There is a rumor, maybe it started by Arsenal fans, maybe it started by a media member who is an Arsenal fan, but it's going around Twitter a little bit over the last about three days to a week or so, that Thierry Henry announced that after his contract is up with the New York Red Bulls, that he will not re-sign with them, and he will basically leave the club. He still has not said that he will retire. So the rumor is, does that open the door for him to come back to Arsenal to finish out his career? Of course, all Arsenal fans would love to see him with his final shirt, his final game as a professional, to be played in an Arsenal shirt. There's also a little bit of a rumor saying that um, he might be coming back to Arsenal. That Arsene Wenger wants him to come back, not only as a player but as possible coach as well, to bring him onto the staff because I don't know how everybody else feels about this, but I'm not too keen on Steve Bold becoming the next Arsenal manager after Arsene Wenger hands it up. I'm just not convinced that he can be the heir apparent and to carry on the legacy that Arsene Wenger built here at Arsenal. Um, I would love to see Thierry Henry come back and be part of the staff, be a a coach. If you saw some of his commentary over the over the World Cup and whatnot, he's very intelligent. He knows the game. Um, it would just be great to see too. I'm kind of surprised that Dennis Bergkamp is also a coach on Ajax right now currently. And he even said that he would love to come back to Arsenal as a coach or even a possible manager in the future. Um, I'm kind of surprised after he said something like that after we gave him a statue last year that Arsene Wenger didn't bring him on during the summer as a coach. Maybe as a midfield coach, maybe as a striker coach, anything like that would be kind of cool to see. Because you look at some of those guys like Bergkamp or even Henry, they know Arsenal's system, they know the Arsenal system, and what better way to hand over the reins to a former player who knows how what the system is and what it is to be a Arsenal player and to be a gunner and to live on that legacy that Arsene Wenger will leave behind one day, whether it's after this contract or if he signs a new contract after this one is let up. Who knows what's going to happen? But that's the rumor flying around right now that yeah, it's a very good possibility that Henry will come back and finish out the last half of the season with Arsenal and finish his career in an Arsenal shirt. I think it would be great. I think it would be, of course, it would be a lot of PR into it. Henry can still play. Obviously, I mean you've seen some of his goals with New York Red Bulls this season, and the way he's been playing with the New York Red Bulls this season. The dude can still play. I mean he could probably still play probably for another year or two, obviously. But I think if he wants to retire, that would be great to see him in an Arsenal shirt and retire as an Arsenal player, and of course to bring him on as a coach in some degree. But that's a rumor flying around right now. How much truth is to that? Who knows? Is it just Arsenal fans talking? Is it Arsenal fans starting the rumor? Who knows what's going to happen with that? But something that you might want to keep an eye on once the MLS season comes to a close, which is very soon. I know they're going to be starting their playoffs coming up pretty soon right now, and who knows what's going to happen between Thierry Henry and the rest of his future as a player or even possibly as a coach. But other than that, don't have really much else for you. I don't know if I'll be doing an Arsenal talk for the next couple of weeks because there's really not really much to say or to really go into. Maybe I'll do some type of Hull City preview prior to the game. Of course, there's going to be the Hull City Anderlecht matchup for that week, and of course Sunderland to finish out the week when they come out of the international break. So maybe I'll do something like that, or if there's any kind of news or anything like that coming out Arsenal wise, then I'll possibly do another Arsenal talk. But other than that, again, nothing to be terribly sad about, nothing to be terribly worried about, in my opinion, right now. As our first Premier League loss of the season, and I think there's a lot of positives you can take from this game rather than negative. So, yeah, there's still a lot of season left. There's still a lot of games left. There's still a lot of possibilities left, especially when Aaron Ramsey and Theo Walcott come back. So hopefully, sky's the limit. Hopefully we start playing the Arsenal way, and hopefully this game too, really sets a fire under Arsene Wenger and gets him focused on the rest of the season, especially the rest of the players as well. But other than that, have a good week and have a good international break of who whoever nation you root for and whoever nation you represent. Of course, the Euros are qualifying is happening, and that's basically the mainstay. U.S. national team. I believe this is going to be the last game, I think, for Landon Donovan. So if you're a U.S. national team fan, I think his last game is coming up. So that's going to be kind of sad to see him go, obviously. It's going to be his last year as a professional. He's retiring early, considering you see a lot of players now not retiring until they're like 36, 37, even 38. He's retiring early. He's only like 32, 33 years old. He still has a lot of games left, but he's pretty much done. And I think he's going to take a broadcasting, some type of job, probably either with Fox or ESPN, one of the two. But yeah, good luck to everybody's national team of if you're playing in a friendly or if you're playing in Euros. And that'll be it. Later.